Hey everybody, this is Flash versus effOrt Game 2. This is from a stream. This is a stream game, and they're gonna be playing yet again on Circuit Breaker. And the last game we saw effOrt try out a really fascinating fast 3-base style before instead of going for the in-base hatch. And to follow it up, he went for the lurkers to try to hold back the turret. It ended up not working out very well. Flash did a very good job of holding off the push and surprising effOrt actually with an early Marine medic push before he was ready to defend. So we'll have to see if that's the same case in this game as well, if effOrt's going to be going for something crazy, or if he's going to be kind of meandering back towards standard 3-hatch meta play. We'll have to see what the plan is. In last game, they were in horizontal positions on the right side. This time, they're going to be in horizontal positions on the bottom. So effOrt in the bottom left, Flash in the bottom right. So, we're actually going to start off with an early pool. So we have a 9 pool coming out from effOrt. Doesn't look like he's going to be going speed. It looks like it's going to be an economic 9 pool. But this is... Oh, actually, he is going to be going for that speed. Oh, never mind. Okay, it was just a drone trick. My bad. It was just an extractor trick. It's fine. So, yeah, extractor trick is somewhat expected. So this is going to allow effOrt to get a good number of lings out early on. It's going to force Flash to pull 3 SCVs, put it on his ramp, and defend that way. You can still technically make 6 to 8 lings and trade for the SCVs and make it worth it, but you do lose some map control with this build, so it's very questionable if it's actually worth it, but occasionally it can pay off huge dividends, especially if the Terran player wants to get tricky and try to be clever with a proxy Rax or some sort of bunker rush. 9 pool obviously deals really well with that. effOrt's going to try to delay this barracks, and he might be able to get it delayed a little bit. It doesn't look like it was actually delayed at all, so very easy for effOrt to get all the scouting info. He's actually going to leave this drone in the main base. Normally, you send the drone back immediately because there's something else you can get. But by keeping this drone in the main base and maybe picking off a little bit of percentage on those SCVs, it's going to make it a lot easier for him to move in here with these lings. And Flash actually hasn't scouted him yet. He still has no idea that these lings are coming. So this could actually be really devastating with if all these 6 lings actually get up into the main base and start picking things off. And yeah, they're actually going to get up into the main base. I'd like to see one of them go down there and stop that SCV from building the CC, because that would slow down Flash dramatically. But right now these lings are just being really annoying. They're probably not going to be able to snipe these Marines. But oh, he's going in for the snipe. He's gonna kill off one. He's gonna kill off the second one. So big deal. Early Marines going down. The CC has stopped, and effOrt is gonna get quite far ahead in the economy war right now. He's doing a good job of splitting up his lings so that he can just be annoying inside the natural and the main at the same time. And I don't think he's gonna get any more SCVs unless Flash just isn't paying attention. But Flash is doing a good job now. He's blocking off his ramp. Keeping that one Marine that he still has left alive. I didn't happen to catch where the money for effOrt is going to, but it looks like he went for a triple hatch into gas. So it's actually, the game is fairly standard at this point. To some degree, the Terran is a little bit behind because Flash doesn't have that natural up yet, and he lost a lot of Marines early on. It's going to make his later pushes a little bit weaker, but at the same time, effOrt's economy has been put so far behind by that early pool that it's going to be very difficult for him to actually catch up. The one thing that he does have going for him is he does have these 3 hatches up, so it's going to be very easy for him to repopulate with all that larva, but he's still a little bit behind time-wise, and his gas and economy is a little bit later than it normally would be if you went for a hatch first. But right now, I would say this is a little bit in favor of effOrt, but not very much. The game is mostly even. right now. So we do see the lair first. It's not going to be a speed first build, nothing super crazy. We'll have to see if effOrt decides to go for the Spire or the Lurkers again. Meanwhile, Flash going for that early E-base, so we're definitely going to be seeing the +1 5 racks come out. I really like this response, knowing, you know what, I'm behind, why don't I just power really, really hard for the mid-game? I'll play super defensively right now because I don't need a lot of Marines. So just play super defensively, go for that +1, and then have a ton of units later on to deal with that. So Zergling speed is done right now, and these Zerglings are going to be able to put pressure across the map. I may have lied, there may have been Zergling speed beforehand. Let me think. Is that correct? Yeah, he had to have taken early Zergling speed first. I love this play from effOrt. effOrt is so good about splitting up his lings and doing a really good job of just being annoying and forcing units out of position. He does pick off one SCV, so that's really nice for effOrt. That's a big win. One SCV for 2 lings is definitely 100% worth it. And continuing to just control the front out here and poke in, see what Flash's unit composition is. He's going to try to pick off a couple of Marines or SCVs wherever he can, because whatever he can do to slow down this eventual push, it's going to be great. So Flash now getting up the 5 racks, he's going to be heading into the really heavy Marine medic type of play that he's well known for. Meanwhile, we see the Spire coming out for effOrt. He's going to be going for those Mutalisks, trying to regain map control, and it's going to be a little bit difficult against the 5 racks. 5 racks is notorious for being very, very good against 3 hatch Muta. With good control, you can definitely push back the 5 racks and almost actually in the game. I've seen it several times from Zerg players. As long as you have really good Muta control and you play really, really smart with your link positioning, you can definitely push this back. So I'll have to see what effOrt does, if effOrt is on his game today or if he's lagging a little bit far behind. Again, being really greedy with the defense at his front. He's only got 1 creep colony right now. That's not even a sunken. Usually you need 2 or 3. He's getting a second one now, but I'm not sure if he's actually going to be able to defend this push if it comes too quickly across the map. Probably needs to go ahead and start morphing that sunken colony, but he seems to want to avoid staggering it. Just going to morph them all together. It's a little bit interesting. Flash's fort does have a force out in the middle of the map, and effOrt is being really careful about just keeping an eye on it, making sure it doesn't straight up kill him. You saw he put up a couple of extra sunkens, and that's just so that he can go immediately into the main base with these Mutalisks. It kind of prevents the front from being broken by just 1 control group of Marine medics, and allows him to put a lot more pressure on with these Mutalisks. It's hard to say if it's actually worth it, because it does make your 3rd base significantly later, but it does allow you to get that hive up a little bit quicker. Flash doing a really good job so far of just defending where he needs to and slowly pushing this back in. That was excellent play with the Mutalisk there. A little bit of repair coming in, so the Mutalisk accidentally took a couple of extra hits, but so far lots of damage being done by these Mutalisks. They're killing off lots of lots of Marines, lots of SCVs. This is going really, really, really well for effOrt so far. I think effOrt is pretty well in control of this game. It's going to continue picking off Marines in this natural, and this is where the tides can actually turn. If you pick off enough Marines, you can definitely start taking control of this game as a Zerg player. There's still no 3rd base though, which makes me a little bit nervous. With no 3rd base, effOrt is going to be hard pressed to actually get the economy to fuel Defiler, Lurker, Ling. But he is going to be able to have quite a bit of units in the upcoming areas. It is possible for him, with good positioning, to get away with Mutiling Lurker, but it's quite difficult, even against the 5 racks. So that has so many Marines, it's actually insane. Flash, I don't know why I keep saying Jadong, it's weird. So Flash actually has almost 3 subgroups of Marine medic. It's actually insane how many units he has right now. And he's going to be able to slowly sandwich and corral these Mutalisks while these lurkers are still morphing. And there's only 2 lurkers on the high ground, which makes me a little bit nervous because it can actually be broken if the Mutalisks are out of position, the high ground on the 3rd, that is. And I don't believe we have any upgrades coming in from the Zerg so far, so I think +1 is only now coming in with these Evo chambers that he's morphing in his main. Evo chamber. And effOrt is actually going to go for a huge counterattack. He thinks this is a better use than trying to save his natural right now. Although there are quite a lot of Sunkens and there is lurkers at that natural, it may be difficult for Flash to break it, but I'm really not sure. Flash always surprises me with really good concaves and things like that, but Flash is actually scouting around. He's sending just units everywhere, all across the map, and it seems like this is definitely forced Flash to turn on. That science vessel gets slowed down. That's a really big deal. The science vessel, or the science facility getting slowed down, that means there's going to be later science vessels, and it's going to give effOrt the time to get his defiler count up. So that's a very, very good moment for effOrt. But he's actually going to fly his Mutos over this group of Marines. He loses 3 or 4 Mutos, and the rest of these are super, super low. I think there's only 2 left in there, so almost no Mutalisks left in the game. He's going to be relying on Defiler Lurkerling right now for the remainder of this phase of the game. So hopefully Adrenal Glands should be about finished by now. Adrenal Glands will definitely allow him to pressure a little bit further. No, he is actually going to remake a few mutas. This is very unusual. Almost always you see the Zerg player trade off the Mutalisks in the mid game and then go into the Lurkerling Defiler because it's much more gas efficient against these mid-game armies, especially once the 3 base economy for the turn actually kicks in. So this is a little bit worrisome for effOrt. Despite being in control for the first half of the game, he is remaking those Mutalisks is a big risk, and basically he's saying, I know I can get more damage done with these. I know I can actually continue to keep Flash pinned back with just a handful of mutas, but it's risky. This is a risky strategy, especially with how well Flash is placing his Marine Medic around the map. So we just heard a science vessel is out, so this is gonna start the big macro machine for Flash, and I believe he had 2 starports, so we are going to be seeing that sort of SK Terran style where he's going to build 2 to 4 science vessels and then immediately going to start going into those dropships. Actually, he's just going to start the switch into mech, so a little bit unusual to play so defensively with 5 racks 2 starport, but Flash just kind of making small adjustments here and there, but this is annoying, these Mutalisks harassing this, but a lot of them are going to go down to that Irradiate. I'm not sure if it was the greatest use of Irradiate. The one advantage effOrt gets out of that is like, okay, you irradiated my Mutalisk, that's totally fine. That means now I have 100% freedom to drone up on my bases because I know you can't push it down. You can't irradiate the defilers, you can't actually push into the base. So very well played so far. There's a couple of Marine Medic down here that are going to be able to be pushed back with this Swarm plus the Lurkers. And right now, effOrt just needs to stay on top of his drop defense. If effOrt isn't paying attention and ends up getting dropped by some of this leftover Marine Medic, it's going to be a world of hurt for him. In the meanwhile, Flash is transitioning into the mech. He's getting the Vultures with the Spider Mines, and there is a small window where the Zerg player can actually kill the Terran player as they're transitioning into the mech. It's generally this time period where the Terran player is being a little bit greedy and getting their 5th and 6th command centers, because as you're doing this transition, you typically have an overabundance of minerals because you stop making Marines, and Vultures are actually just dirt cheap. So you have an overabundance of minerals. So typically this is when the Terran player will play a little bit greedier and go for those 5th and 6th bases early on. And you can definitely abuse that as the Zerg player with big drops. You can go for the play that Jaedong did against Last, where he did a huge Ultralisk drop to break the middle of the map. I would have liked to see a little bit more drones after the first 2 irradiates went down, because I think effOrt is not as far ahead right now as he could be, but he is slowly saturating all of his bases, so that's really good to see. Once he gets these 4 bases up, then he'll be on max economy. He can stick to just the Defiler, Lurker, Ling, or add in Ultras if he wants. Well, you definitely have the economy to do that sort of thing. And in the meanwhile, he just needs to constantly be very, very aware of the skies, make sure he's paying attention to the drop play, and just buy enough time for all these upgrades to kick in. That's the play for Zerg right now. So, we'll have to see. Flash has done a really good job of splitting the map, and he's got that high ground main up in the top right. This is starting to get very scary for the Zerg player, because the last place you want to be is a split map scenario versus Terran, as they're taking when they have 2 high ground mains. That becomes very difficult to break, because you can add in extra production, factory production on that high ground area. You can add in missile turrets, and it becomes very difficult to actually break it. What some Zerg players, like Larva, have been doing to combat that is just going for the queens, and I casted one of those last week as well. But effOrt doesn't seem like the type of player that likes to play it slow and steady. He's definitely the one who likes trading a lot, who likes doing a whole bunch of fancy maneuvers. So we're definitely going to see a lot of trades coming out. This has just been the big build-up period where both players are trying to get their max army while keeping an eye on one another, see what they're up to. But once effOrt starts to reach max and he starts to get that Ultralisk tech up and the upgrades that he needs, he's definitely going to be turning on the aggression 100%. And it's going to be up to the Terran to just defend at this point. Terran honestly doesn't have to attack for the rest of the game. If Flash wants, now that he has most of the map covered, he can literally just continue to make mech units and slowly push across and line up each base. He doesn't really have to do any sort of attacks right now. The onus is up to the Zerg player to get all the attacks done. So a couple of links coming in here. They actually might be able to kill off a lot of these SCVs. Where are the vultures? Vultures are across the map laying mines. They should be dealing with this, and strange moment of inattention from Flash there to lose all of those SCVs to a handful of Lings, and really good. That was an excellent play. So all of these tanks are going to be going down eventually. Another one of those Defilers coming in, and this 4th base for Flash has been broken right now. Rather 5th base. So this is going to be really annoying to deal with. Flash is eventually going to be cleaning up this up with the remnants of his army, but he definitely took a lot more damage there than he should have. Losing a lot of SCVs, even though it's really not that big of a deal, can be very problematic later in the game, especially when the main and the natural start to run dry for the Terran player, because Lings will always be mega efficient at killing things. So if you ever get into a low economy scenario where you're trying to deal with Lings, it's very difficult. Lings are very, very cost efficient, especially when they don't have any opposition, if they get dropped in a base or anything like that. So a couple of Lings trading for Vultures. I don't think that Ling run by was very good, but it's just effOrt trying his best to get some pressure out on the map and force Flash to be in position. And I really like the splitting of the Lings over there. He's going to be able to take out these 3 tanks that are in the center of the map, and continuing to send units out in the middle of the map. He's going to place this 1 Defiler underneath the swarm just to keep it safe for now. And there's something burrowed in the middle of the map. I don't know if that's a burrowed Link for scouting or if that's another Defiler. We'll have to see, but the Ultras are out. This is where the heat really gets turned up on the Terran player. There's going to be a ton of Ultras out on the map, and you see effOrt is actually pulling everything. This is going to be basically an all-in. And good T-matrixes from Flash to prevent that from doing any major damage. But here comes the flood of units, and the swarms are going down. there's a whole bunch of ultras that are gonna get right on top of this tanks. It's hard to tell if it'll actually get broken, but really good defiler placement, really good lurker placement right on top of all those Marines. They're gonna be able to take them out pretty nicely, but tanks are pretty damn good against Ultralists, so definitely effOrt was missing the flood of lings that comes in after that. You really need that flood of lings to clean up the mech army. Otherwise, Ultras really don't do a lot of damage to tanks. They definitely get out DPS'd by the tanks. So, not a particularly great play from effOrt. He definitely had the chance to straight up win the game right there, but played a little bit greedy, not waiting for those extra lings. And it looks like he's actually setting up another concave. He's going to try to go in here again and break this, but there's a lot of tanks here. This is a lot of tanks. This time he does have the lings, thankfully, and the lings are going to be able to clean up these tanks very quickly, and great swarms. He's going to be able to break this middle area, but the reinforcements of Flash should be able to eventually clean this up. Meanwhile, back at home, effOrt is really just continuing to make units. He's going to try some drop play instead, it looks like, maybe. Just trying to pick off the remainder of these tanks, because if he can kill off the tanks, then it makes it much easier to go in. I don't know if those are real. No, he doesn't even have drop research, so this is a fake drop just to kind of throw Flash off the scent. Meanwhile, he's probably going to be sending an attack down to that lower mid area, but no, he's actually just going to keep drilling the center. He really wants to break this area so that he can take down this third base and get back in control of the middle of the map. So another flood of lings coming in. Good swarms again, but the positioning of these tanks is really good, and with such a good line of defense for Flash, he's eventually going to be able to push this back. And effOrt doesn't really have the economy to continue doing this. He really needs to start coming up with some clever drop play. I don't think he even has drops researched yet, so this could end up being a real problem for him as the game goes later and later. He can continue to do fake drops and things like that to force the turn out of position, but without any real drops, it's going to be difficult for him to actually get any damage, and he's not going to be able to break the center anymore. There's too much tanks, there's too much infrastructure. It's just not possible for the Zerg player to break the front now without queens. So see what effOrt is doing. Right now we're having another build-up period where both players are just trying to re-macro. Flash is already maxed out. effOrt is still at 150 food, so you can see that the Zerg player is definitely struggling. He does have a lot of money saved up, and this might be just in preparation for a potential Mutaswitch whenever the Terran player tries to push into a base, but we'll have to see. Mutaswitch is still the big trump card for the Zerg player. You can't actually break anything, but if you manage to slam a 200 army into a position and kill off a lot of the infrastructure around it, you can definitely switch into those mutas and just break it with the mutas. But Flash already knows that this concave is being set up. He knows that effOrt is getting ready for this big attack, and here it comes. Again, effOrt just trying to break the space, but Flash is already in position with his tanks. He's going to be able to kill off this first wave pretty handily. And right now it's 186 supply to 142. It's looking pretty bad for effOrt. I don't know if he's going to be able to come back. Like I said, the worst case scenario for a Zerg player is getting stuck in these split map positions versus mech without having queens. It's just too hard to trade cost efficiently against a mech army, even with Swarm. And it's going to continue to get harder and harder as the game goes along. But here come the first couple of mutas. Here comes the big Mutaswitch. This is the big trump card, and wow, that's actually so genius. Flash actually moves his Goliath underneath the Dark Swarm so the Mutalisk can't target them. That's actually so cute. Splash damage does still work, so the Mutalisk can actually kill all of them off except for one. But oh gosh, that was actually really beautiful. So here come the Mutalisk. They're picking off a lot of tanks here. And the goal is to do enough damage to this army that he can switch back into the Lurker Ling Defiler and be able to destroy this. But a couple of Radiates coming out, they're going to be able to do a lot of damage to these Mutalisks. And Ling's flooding across the map, but it's going to be really tough to actually continue this pressure because the Mutalist number is starting to dwindle. There are more and more of these Goliaths coming out. Flash just doing a really good job of sticking just heavily to these mech units. You see he has almost zero science vessels, which is a little surprising to see. But honestly, when you get into split map position, you don't really need the science vessels anymore. You can just sit back and defend, get tons and tons of mech units, and just have like an impregnable army. But wow, 2 Valkyries out. I actually love this. Just in case effOrt tries to go for another one of those Muto switches, it is completely neutered by these Valkyries. He can actually make up to 4 or 5. And we'll be able to kill all Mutalisks for the rest of the game. Big attack coming into Flash's northern base, but it's going to be able to be cleaned up because, again, Flash is just investing so heavily into all these mech units. He just has units everywhere. It's 190 supply to 140. This is getting out of control for the Zerg player. The Terran army has moved across the map. They're going to break this 9 o'clock base. And that's going to cut off the main and the natural from each other. It's going to make it very easy for the Terran player to continually move across the map and just whittle away either one side or the other. Usually it's the natural and not the outside bases this late in the game. But we'll have to see what the plans are for Flash. Flash just doing really good. I can feel the GG coming pretty soon. At some point, effOrt's going to know that there's no hope for him. He can't get a foothold anywhere on the map. He does have a lot of bases still mining, but his supply is so much lower, and he can barely deal with this mech army in the middle of the map. And once this mech army gets entrenched, it's going to be impossible to do anything at all. Even the cost efficiency of these Lings is not going to be enough. Lots of tanks going down to just pure Ling. Just really good splits from effOrt, but eventually this is all going to catch up to him. And he's not going to be able to do any more damage here. Definitely admirable to see how well effOrt is playing out this late game, considering how far he is behind. And just playing out of his mind with the macro and the micro, but it's not going to be enough. The middle of the map has been broken by this mech army, and unless effOrt can pull off something miraculous right now, it's not going to happen. Even with the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock bases, it's not looking good for Zerg. Especially when all Flash really needs is a couple tanks on the high ground to snipe these bases out. It really doesn't take a lot of effort to break them at this point in time, especially with so few units from the Zerg player. But effOrt is holding in. He's holding on. He definitely wants to stay in this game for as long as possible. He's not going to give up. He still thinks that maybe he can win it if he can pick off enough tanks or find the right break, but all of his bases are going down right now. All of the cardinal direction bases. So it's going to be very difficult for him to actually get back into this game. I really don't know what his plan is, but big attack coming in here. They're going to be able to pull a lot of mines, but it just doesn't matter. The choke there on the ramp is just too strong, and the mech army just refuses to fall. These tanks on the high ground up in the top right-hand base are going to be able to deal with any sort of play. There's still, yeah, that's actually the first Defiler we've seen in a while. One Defiler puts down a Dark Swarm, but that's not going to be enough. It's not over the tanks now. And the 6 o'clock base is going to go down. A big army is brewing up in the top left, and with good micro, he can definitely break this army in the middle of the map. But at what cost, right? Flash has been maxed for the past 10 minutes. Like, he's not fallen below max in a while. So every time even anything gets picked off, it's just immediately remade, no problem. It's just, it's there's the GG. Yep. effOrt not giving up to the very last second. On to game 3 in this series.